Welcome to IAS project. This is the third lecture for Aryan culture. Before we go into the lecture, let me ask you some questions. The first question is, which river has been called as Nadi Tarna in the Rig Veda? Four options have been given: Ganga river, Yamuna river, Saraswati river and Indus river. The next question is, which river has been called as Paurushni in the Rig Veda? Four options have been given here: Indus river, Sutlej river, Chenab river and Ravi river. If you know the answer to these questions, please answer in the comment section below. Now let's talk about some of the characteristics of Aryan culture. The first characteristic is that Aryans were pastoralists. Pastoralist simply means that they were people who herded animals, and particularly they herded cattle. And cattle was very important for these people. Aryans also practiced agriculture. However, agriculture was not as important as cattle for these people. So we can say that agriculture was a kind of second occupation for Aryan people. However, in the later stages, the importance of agriculture has also increased. But initially, it was the pastoralism that was the most important occupation of Aryan people. The second characteristic is that Aryans composed Vedic literature. When we say Vedic literature, we mean Veda Samhitas, Brahmanas, Aranyakas and Upanishads. All these Vedic literature were composed in Sanskrit. Please note that most of the Upanishads were actually composed after Vedic period. Even then, these are considered under Vedic literature. Moreover, the polity of Aryans was a tribal polity. Tribal polity means that people in Aryan culture owed their loyalty to the tribe. Moreover, they also waged wars. Mostly, these wars were waged for cattle and land. Even in cattle and land, cattle were the first cause for making wars, and then land was also another cause for making wars. Sometimes water was also the cause for making wars. Aryans waged wars among themselves as well as with the locals that were present in that region. And these locals were generally called as Dasas or Dasyus in Rig Veda. So Aryans fought among themselves as well as they fought with the locals. Cattle were very important in the Aryan culture because cattle were considered as wealth. Horse was also very important in Aryan culture, but horse was important mainly from military point of view. Chariots were also very important in Aryan culture. Because of horses and because of chariots, these people were able to easily defeat the locals. That is why horses and chariots were very important in the Aryan culture. Moreover, if we talk about the chariots of Aryans, these chariots were very light. They were having two wheels and they were drawn by two horses. They were light because they were having spoked wheels. Since these chariots were very light, it also meant that these chariots were fast. So Aryans were the first people in India to introduce the light and fast spoked wheel chariots that were drawn by two horses and that had two wheels. Before this, in the Indus civilization, spoked wheel was not existing. Moreover, in Indus civilization, chariots were also not existing. Horses were also not used. Mainly bullock carts were used, and those bullock carts generally had four wheels and those wheels were not spoked wheels. So that is why the Indus civilization carts were not fast. They were very slow. So because of the fast chariots, Aryans had a very high advantage whenever they were waging war with the local people. Aryans were also experts at coppersmithing, carpentry, chariot making and some other activities like pottery and weapons making. In general, in the Aryan society, women held a very good position. However, we must note that the society of Aryans was patriarchal as well as patrilineal. Patriarchal simply means that father is the head of the family. Patrilineal means that the descent of people or the descent of sons mainly takes the line of the father. Or we can also say that patrilineal simply means sons get inheritance. So patrilineal means the lineage is taken from father's side. Moreover, sons get inheritance of the father. Aryans worshipped nature gods. For example, they worshipped gods like Indra, who was considered as a god of thunder. They worshipped Agni, which is nothing but fire. they worshipped Varuna, who is the rain god, and they worshipped some other gods which were mainly nature gods. Moreover, Aryans also personified these gods. Personified simply means that they considered these gods in human form and then they worshipped these gods. However, we must note that during Rig Vedic period, idol worship was not there. Temples were also not there. However, these people personified and worshipped nature gods. Moreover, they also practiced sacrifices and rituals. And for these sacrifices and rituals, generally priests were needed. So in order to pay the priests, most of the time slaves were given as payment to the priests. Sometimes food grain also was given. However, land was not given to priests as payment. So this is about some of the common characteristics of Aryan culture. We will deal about each of these when we particularly talk about Rig Vedic period and the later Vedic period. So this is basically just an introduction to Aryan culture. Now let's talk about some of the changes that happened in the Indian subcontinent when Aryans entered. So Aryans migrated into India in several waves. Please observe this. They did not come only at one time. They came in several waves over many years. The first wave or the first migration was basically the Rig Vedic people's migration. And these Rig Vedic people came into India around 1500 BCE. And when they came into India, these Rig Vedic people mainly settled in the northwestern part of Indian subcontinent. That is nothing but in the eastern Afghanistan region, in the northwestern Pakistan region, in the Punjab region of India as well as Pakistan, and also on the fringes of western Uttar Pradesh. Let's look at all these regions on the map. So when Rig Vedic people came into India, this is where they first settled. This area is nothing but the eastern part of Afghanistan. And then they moved into the Punjab area. Punjab area simply means that the area of Indus as well as the 5 important tributaries of Indus. And from here, they also spread into western Uttar Pradesh. In western Uttar Pradesh, mainly the Yamuna river was the border. However, they also crossed Yamuna river and they went up to Ganges river also. We know this because in Rig Veda, we have reference to Ganges river also. So we can say that this area is basically the extent of early Vedic period, or we can also call this as Rig Vedic period. So we can say that Ganga and Yamuna rivers were mostly the eastern boundary of Rig Vedic people, which is nothing but western Uttar Pradesh was the easternmost boundary of Rig Vedic people. Rig Veda also mentions various rivers. For example, it mentions river Kuba. Kuba is nothing but the modern day Kabul river. Kabul river is basically a tributary of Indus river. Kabul river flows in Afghanistan as well as Pakistan. So this river Kuba or river Kabul has been mentioned in Rig Veda. Moreover, in Rig Veda, the most important river that was mentioned was river Saraswati. River Saraswati has been called as Nadi Tarna in the Rig Veda. The meaning of Nadi Tarna is best of the rivers. So we can say that river Saraswati has been called as the best of the rivers in Rig Veda. However, there has been some dispute as to what is the river Saraswati that has been mentioned in the Rig Veda. Most probably, the river Saraswati that has been mentioned in Rig Veda is the Ghaggar Hakra river that is present in India. Let me show you where Ghaggar Hakra river is. So Ghaggar Hakra river is somewhere like this. It was most probably a tributary of Sutlej river. Okay, so this red line basically shows the Ghaggar Hakra river, which was called as Saraswati in the Rig Veda. However, there is also one more possibility. The other possibility is that river Saraswati actually meant Hakravati river. Hakravati river is called today as Helmand river, and Helmand river is present in southern Afghanistan. However, please note that most probably river Saraswati meant Ghaggar Hakra river, which is in India. So please consider this river as river Saraswati. This river was probably important during the time of Aryan period, but this river, it is almost dried up and it is very insignificant river, and it is basically a seasonal river today. But probably during Vedic period, it was significant. We also studied about this river in Indus civilization also. During Indus civilization, This was very important because some of the sites in Rajasthan and Haryana were located close to Saraswati river. Saraswati river is nothing but the Ghaggar Hakra river. Rig Veda also mentions some other rivers. For example, Rig Veda mentions all these rivers. Moreover, Rig Veda also mentions that the Aryans settled near Sapta Sindhu. Sapta Sindhu simply means 7 rivers of Sindhu. We know Sindhu is nothing but the Indus river. So out of the remaining 6, we have 5 important tributaries of Indus and the other one is river Saraswati, which is nothing but the Ghaggar Hakra river. So Rig Veda has given names to all these 7 rivers. Indus has been called as Sindhu river, Jhelum has been called as Vatishta, Bias has been called as Vipasa, Chenab has been called as Askini, Ravi has been called as Parushni. This is very important. Sutlej has been called as Sutudri. Sutlej is also important. Ghaggar Hakra has been called as Saraswati. We have just learnt that Saraswati was the most important river in Rig Veda and it was also very sacred. For that reason, it was called as Nadi Tarna in Rig Veda. So please try to remember all these names. If you are unable to remember all these names, at least try to remember Sindhu, Parushni, Sutudri and Saraswati. So Aryan invasion theory states that when Aryans came, eventually Indus civilization cities collapsed. And after the fall of Indus cities like Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Rakhigarhi and other cities, Aryans occupied these areas. But Aryans did not build any cities. Aryans were mainly living in small villages. Moreover, Aryans also did not use any bricks. They did not use mud bricks and they did not use baked bricks also. Aryans built their houses mainly using wood and they also built mud and reed houses. So we can say that baked bricks were not a part of Vedic culture. Moreover, after the invasions, the culture of Aryans also dominated in the region. This means that the culture of the locals or the culture of the original people who were living before, their culture started to decline. We have seen that some of the important aspects of Aryan culture was nothing but patriarchy was very important in Aryan society. Aryans were worshipping sky gods. They used horses and chariots with spoked wheels. Pastoralism was very important to them. It was more important than agriculture. Okay. Priests, sacrifices and rituals were also very important in Aryan society. So all these aspects represent Aryan culture. And this Aryan culture started to dominate in the region, while at the same time, the culture of the indigenous people started to decline. However, we must note that some cultural aspects of original inhabitants also survived. And eventually what happened was, Aryans also started to adopt the cultural aspects of the original inhabitants. They did not adopt all cultural aspects, but they adopted some cultural aspects which survived during this time. One very important example to explain this is, we know that Atharva Veda was nothing but the 4th Veda. So in Atharva Veda, there are many aspects which actually include the beliefs of non-Aryan people. So with this example, we can say that the Vedic literature also assimilated the cultural aspects of original inhabitants who were living in the Indo-Gangetic plains. Original inhabitants simply means the locals who were living in that area. And Aryans called these local people as Dasyus or sometimes as Dasas also. Dasa simply means slave. If we talk about Rig Vedic period, Bharatas were the most important tribe of Rig Vedic period. These Bharatas tribe settled in Punjab region, mainly between rivers of Sutlej and Yamuna. Please note that Sutlej has been called as Sutudri in Rig Veda. So this area between river Sutlej and river Yamuna came to be known as Brahmavarta later. These type of facts become very important for UPSC prelims. So initially, the Rig Vedic people did not expand much beyond river Yamuna. However, in Rig Veda, the river Ganga has also been mentioned, but it has been mentioned only once. So we can say that Ganga river was not very important during the Rig Vedic period. Rig Vedic period is basically from 1500 BCE to 1000 BCE. I am only giving you a basic introduction in this video. We will talk more about Rig Vedic period and later Vedic period in the coming videos. So Vedas also mention that Aryans had horses, they also had chariots with spoked wheels, they also used bows and arrows. Moreover, they also practiced agriculture and pastoralism. Initially, pastoralism was more important than agriculture, but by the end of Vedic period, agriculture also became very important. So when Aryans invaded the Indus region and destroyed the cities, these people did not develop a city civilization. They were only living in villages. But Aryans were experts in waging war, composing poetry, as well as organizing priestly schools. We know that Rig Veda was not written originally. The knowledge of Rig Veda was transmitted orally. Rig Veda is very important for understanding Vedic culture because we do not get much evidence from material remains. That is why we generally rely on Rig Veda and other Vedas for understanding Vedic culture. So most of our knowledge regarding Vedic culture is not from material remains, but it is mainly from Vedic literature. Please like and subscribe. You can download this presentation from our Telegram channel. The name of the channel is IAS Project. You can find the link for this channel in the description section below. Thank you.